Preparation makes a trip good, but unplanned surprises are what make it memorable. Today we're heading to Uji, a place I went to for matcha and temples, but stayed for a very special encounter with someone I probably should have recognized. So if that sounds like an adventure you're up for, then come with me to load up on onigiri before we start the trip. So I'd been living off konbini onigiri all week. You know, the ones where the rice is kind of cold and the nori is somehow both soggy and crispy at the same time, but it's still better than whatever you'd get at a convenience store back home. Today though, before heading to Uji, I happened to be right by Onimaru, this little spot that's basically the glow-up version of 7-Eleven onigiri. I'm talking flavors like the usual salmon and tuna, but also brie and mentaiko, duck, just a good variety that helps you remember what rice is supposed to taste like. So by the time I was at the station, I'd opened and chewed through one, and I was already transported before I even arrived. The Uji River has been the heart of this town for centuries. Threading through everything, this area is famous for tea and ayu, the sweet fish that can only thrive in pristine water. You can actually see fishermen doing cormorant fishing here at night, which is this ancient technique that's been happening since at least the 8th century. And of course, my first stop was the spot that you see on the 10 yen coin called Byodoin, home to the Phoenix Hall. The funny thing was the interior was closed when I got there, but I did have a great time spending the rest of my morning viewing the grounds. There happened to be a school field trip going on, and I didn't really mind. You've got a battalion of Japanese middle schoolers in line being corralled by their teachers, and that was way more interesting to me than the usual Instagram tourist energy. It felt like the real Uji. I mean, if Japanese schools found the Phoenix Hall beautiful enough as a regular field trip, then I knew I was in the right place. Byodoin started as a nobleman's villa back in the 11th century, around 1052, when someone decided that having a temple as a weekend home was the ultimate power move. Over time, it was converted into this Buddhist temple and became a gorgeous architectural masterpiece. The Phoenix Hall that's on the 10 yen coin is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The name comes from the golden phoenixes that you see on the roof, which symbolize rebirth. And the whole design of the hall is meant to look like the phoenix spreading its wings. Even with the number of people around, there are still pockets of serenity because of how beautiful the grounds are laid out. There was a wisteria arbor right across the Phoenix Hall, exhaling mist like it was having its own spiritual moment. The sun was high in the sky, but with the cool spring breeze blowing past, making the leaves dance, it was absolutely peaceful. The butterfly that just flew past was not a paid actor. I was just as surprised as you are. These are moments that form core memories in my mind. Make me glad that the practice of journaling and bringing around my traveler's notebook helps me be more present in the moment. Even though I do like preparing for my trips and looking up good spots to go, these unplanned moments are what shine in my memory for years to come. After walking through the museum in Byodoin, which you're not allowed to film, I found myself back at the Uji Bridge. I'm a bridge and river girly now, apparently. This trip has absolutely confirmed it. From the Kamo to now Uji River, I love a good waterway moment. This bridge has been connecting two sides of this town since the 13th century, and it has a serene, timeless vibe. The next place I was heading to is right across the bridge, called Tsuen. This is a legendary tea shop that's one of the oldest not just in Japan, but in the world. We're talking about 800 years old, founded way back in the Kamakura period. They've been doing matcha here since basically forever. So naturally, I walked in expecting usucha sets, the whole ceremonial thing, but on this day, that wasn't to be. It was ice cream or matcha lattes. And I ordered the matcha latte and the hojicha ice cream, thinking how bad could it be? Well, it was aggressively milky, like the matcha was there but it was drowning. The hojicha ice cream was excellent though, and that saved the day enough for me. But here's the thing. Here I am standing outside the storefront, finishing my ice cream. And there's this crowd of tourists with one guy loudly proclaiming, "The horchata is so good." And just as I was processing that, someone else in their group goes, "I think matcha is only good as an ice cream. The tea form, lowest ranking." I made a choice. I exercised my free will and gazed at the serenity of the Uji River. It was about 4:45 p.m. at this point, and I'd basically lived on onigiri all day. So I searched for something nearby, and I found this little kaiseki place called Chikurin, tucked away overlooking the river. I wasn't sure if they'd be open, and this man came out and showed me the menu. He asked what I wanted, and I saw the kaiseki options, and they said they'd absolutely accommodate me for an early dinner. Super gracious. Then he goes, "One moment," and puts on a white chef's coat. And I was like, oh, he's not the host, he's the chef. They typically have servers that introduce each kaiseki dish to you. And he called her over and she showed me to this beautiful room. Tatami floors, a huge window facing the river, and I couldn't help myself. I started dancing my feet on the tatami and immediately pulled out my notebook to sketch. What a treat. Every single dish was introduced to me so kindly, and the lady patiently helped me practice my baby N5 Japanese. It actually helped me understand the nuances of each dish better. I felt like I was on one of those fancy Netflix cooking shows, except I was just sitting there in my travel clothes with my sketchbook, absolutely content. The seasonal spring dishes were excellent. Uji specialties, everything from the local produce to the water itself, influences what they cook here. And as I'm sketching and eating, the light outside the window is changing. Warm and golden, and then soft blues and pinks as the sun sets. And that whole time, the river rushing past. By the time the meal was finished, I'd completed my sketch and I was full. Like genuinely full, heart full and stomach full. As I was paying and getting ready to leave, I even had a short chat with the chef and the lady who waited on me. And they were so nice. The chef even asked where I was learning Japanese, and we had this little conversation where I heard the classic jozu, which I do take with a grain of salt because I know that's polite encouragement to anyone who tries to speak the language, but I appreciated it anyway. Here's the thing, when I got home and actually researched Chikurin, I realized I'd been having a meal prepared by the founder and owner, the man who trained at Kikunoi, one of the most prestigious kaiseki restaurants in Kyoto. That's crazy to me. The full name of the place is Byodoin Omotesando Chikurin. It's owned and operated by Hideki Shimoguchi, who serves as the lead operator and culinary figurehead of the ryote, or traditional Japanese restaurant. I just walked in and had dinner with him like we were talking about the weather. And that's what made it special. He didn't make it feel intimidating. It was just like, oh, you're hungry? Come sit. Let me feed you something beautiful. That's a different kind of mastery. The kind that comes from decades of dedication to your craft without losing the heart and enjoyment that brought you to it. Chikurin offers other dining options too if you don't have the time or budget for full kaiseki. But if you do go, sit by that window, watch the river change colors. I know I'm definitely going back. Walking back to the station during golden hour was a nice way to burn off all the calories I just consumed. I passed the statue of Murasaki Shikibu, the woman who wrote the tale of Genji over 1,000 years ago, and did a lot of it right here in Uji. It seemed fitting for a day spent in quiet moments and beautiful encounters. I got my station stamp, hopped on the train back to Kyoto, and felt very, very content. Oh, and the saving grace from my Tsuen encounter? I picked up some Soba to bring home. Once I got back to Manila, I prepared it, paired it with tempura, and I have to tell you, the green on that noodle is unreal. It was super fresh, and the matcha tones really came through in a balanced way. I hope this video lets you experience a little piece of Japan in your home, and if you're planning a trip to Kyoto, Uji is an absolute gem. It's worth the short train ride for the temples, the river, the tea, and the food, and you might even stumble into something unexpected. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back at the desk.